What is going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Zeb, and I am Snowman. So after a very long wait, we're finally going to start this channel up and see where it goes from here. I'm going to preface this video with, it's going to be a little bit slow, and it's going to be a little boring. I already know, and I've already seen the next video. It's going to be a lot better, and it's going to move a lot quicker. It's going to deal with, using some of the machines that are even sitting around me. So please consider liking this video, comment on how you wish to see the channel go, and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a video that isn't boring like this one. And everybody just turn this video off. Oh well. I'm going to keep going with it though. So I beat around for a long time, where am I going to start this channel up at? And I finally kind of figured out a good place to begin, and that's with, well, building a rod. But I didn't want to do it with a client rod. I didn't want to do it with just a experimental rod. I wanted to do it with something kind of fun, and it means something to me. And this rod means something to me because this rod's going to be for me. It's a rebuild. It's my 7033 Yomogi. I broke my old one last year. That gave me a chance to replace it. And when it came down to replacing it, there was a few other tapers that I was looking at. One of them was going to be the Thomas & Thomas Lodic. The other one was adding another carbon rod. And the other option was just to get another Yomogi sent over and build another one. And I bought all three. So this one is going to deal with the Yomogi specifically, and just the Yomogi. And I want to show you everything that I did wrong with the old one, everything that I didn't like with the old one, and how I'm going to change it, do it better on this one. And yeah, the old one kind of sucks, I'm not going to lie. The old one's actually sitting over here. You can see it's weathered, beat, and missing part of its tip. So this video is going to deal with kind of the blueprinting side of it, and all the numbers and all the data that I gather, and pretty much setting up a notebook so that I have all the data for the rod. It makes my process a lot easier, and I want to show you that. But first, where we're going to go is I'm going to show you the old, busted, destroyed Yomogi. It's 4 years old now, versus where I'm going to take the new one against that. So we'll move there now.
A few moments later.
So here's the old Yomogi, and yeah, I guess we'll start with the worst first, and that's this insert. It is just disgusting. It's dyed, it's overstabilized, and I'll zoom you in, and you can see it's absolutely lifeless. And that's a product of being overstabilized. And you know when something is overstabilized, when you start turning it, it starts smelling like a nail salon. It's coming off in ribbons. It's just junk, straight junk. So moving on, you can see some brass out there. Probably see it again in the winding check. And the cork has never been cleaned. This is one of the things I thought was kind of funny, and it showed how this rod existed. There's a hole in the signature. Face it right side up. there's a hole in the description panel, which this rod got drug over rocks, it got beaten up, it didn't live an easy life. Now you can see here, wraps are all dehydrated, and the reason for the dehydrated wraps, I left this thing in my Jeep for like 4 straight years. All of them are dehydrating. Spigots are really clean because the rod was never broken down. But yeah, it stayed in my Jeep, and through heat and through everything else, the wraps started to dehydrate. And when varnish rods dehydrate, they shrink. When epoxy rods dehydrate, they crumble. So the epoxy starts to crumble. Again, you can see here, pretty good dehydration going on throughout the rod. I mean, I never took care of it. Like, the cork is just that dirty. Never ever cleaned. So it's a shame. I should have taken better care of it, and that probably would have led me to just rebuilding a new tip. But here's the broken tip. Nice clean break. Right through a car door. Again, you can see decent dehydration throughout the entire rod. You can also see it's an older style ferrule ring, and they're brassing out pretty good. But she's done for. And somebody's probably thinking, well, why don't you reclaim what is still good on this rod? Why don't you cut the guides out? I mean, the guides are okay, and the stripping guide could be replated, no problem, and all that stuff. But I'm going to leave it as it is and kind of keep it around as the first Yomogi I kept for more than a year. So that's the busted one. I'll bring the new one in. I'll show you where it's going to go. So here's the new Yomogi. What you can see first is on these, the middle and the tip section, I have numbers written down, and that's the diameter at the union. I have this written down as well, and that's about where the winding check is going to land. And then I have the butt diameter written at the back. These numbers just help me build up my notebook, and this is stuff that I can get to right away. And as you can see here, here's the unions, and that's just a pencil line that Tomo put on there to show me how this thing, well, that helped him set the ferrule depth. So this is the insert I'm going to be using on that rod, and it's Flame Box Elder. As you can see, compared to what I had on the old one, it's a lot more lively, a lot more fun to look at. I think it shows a lot more depth, a lot more color range. It doesn't look flat, it has movement to it, and it's healthy. And just as an example, here's other inserts. Like this is Amboina, and you can see just the level of depth to it. Now I get that this one's older, but it never had that. It just never ever had that. And this one is a pretty simple insert, and it's just maple burl. But it, again, these aren't even buffed out yet or anything, and they just look more lively. So this is going to be the new one. The other thing that was out is this is going to be the stripping guide for it. Pink banded agate. I was kind of trying to tie the pink with the flame in the box elder. It's not a perfect match, but if this wasn't my rod, I'd try a little harder. But it's my rod, so I don't try that hard, which sucks. So I'm going to grab a notebook and I'm going to show you how I set that up real quick. So let's go ahead and take a look at where we're at now in this notebook, and it's pretty simple. first line is going to be what the rod is, and it's going to be the month in which a rod was started, which is June. And typically this would be a client name, but it's mine. So important diameters: butt diameter, first union, second union, tip. Winding check will be the actual diameter which it ends up at, which I don't know yet. So the butt diameter is 3560, first union is 2920, second union is just 20, the tip is 4.5. And how do you figure out the diameter of a winding check? The diameter of a winding check is 64ths of an inch. So to figure that out, you can grab a mic, and some mics will read in 64ths, or one all the way down to 1/28, and then, or you can grab equivalent value. So if the mic only reads in 10 thou, whatever. So figure out what it is in your closest 64ths. For example, this one actually came out to be 9 1/28. So in order to get that down to a usable size for ordering a tip top, I need to divide this down till I get to 64ths. So it's pretty simple. It ends up being 4.5 64ths. So my tip that I need to order is 4.5 64ths. Moving down, you're going to see a little too low. I'll start at the back and I'll work my way forward. So it's going to be an upslide, which is what I love to use. All the hardware is going to be blued Durans. You can see here, it's already been blued. It's ready to go. But if I ever break this rod, I know I'm going to be pulling Durans to remake the hardware. If I break it bad enough that I lose hardware, I don't know, maybe that's a thing. The insert is going to be flame box elder, and the finish on that insert is an automotive style finish, which is something I've moved towards. The OD on it is 6495. The ID, or the bore diameter, is 3750 or 3/8. This is a typical measure for me. And this diameter comes back to this diameter. If this number is bigger than this number, it tells me one of two things. Either I need to bore out the ID of the real seat, move up in size, or if I want to keep the OD small on the insert, I'm going to cut the back end of the rod off. I'm just going to cut it off and put a spike in. The mortise depth for me is 5,600. The actual mortise depth, how deep the mortise is on its own in relationship to the insert, is 0.895. I typically do this between 0.8 and 0.1. With this rod, I know the two reels that are going to be used, and it's either going to be this reel, which is my Spitfire replica, or my Kinia. And if you look, both of these have ribbed feet. Ribbed foot, ribbed foot. When you have a ribbed foot, you can run a little bit smaller. The cork is stacked, and you saw the stack earlier. It's 13 rings stacked, which pressed out is about 6 1/4. The finished length is probably going to be down around 5.875 or 5 7/8. I'll trim that into length. Finished length is left blank because, well, I don't know the finished length. And the shape, I know it's going to be like one of 2 to 3 shapes, which is what I like on this size of rod. So I know where I'll go. The design of the winding check I do know as well. 2-stepped, radiused and knurled. Ferrule rings will be a 3-step tapered and knurled. And then I'm going to use a progressive knurl on all of this. So it'll be a 1.2 to 1.5 0.4 at the winding check, then it'll be 1, 2, or 1, or I'll go 1, 2, 1.8, or 0.8, actually 1.0, 0.8, 0.6, somewhere in there. It all depends on how big I decide to go on everything. Moving down a little further, the guide set is going to be all dark nickel snake brand originals. I'm always using snake brand, and since Mike only does dark nickel, that's my option. The arch frame maggot stripping guide, you saw that earlier, is going to be pink banded. The guide profile, I'm labeling this as steep and tight. It's steep because I'm going to ramp up very quick at the back, and it's going to be very slow at the front. So it's going to ramp real quick. And this is just how I denote that. And then I just scribbled this in. I don't know if that's true. There's lines left beneath it because I can come back and realize that maybe this taper is wrong. So I'm going to run 2/0 for the first 5 guides. I'm going to move to a 1/0, go to a 1, 2, and 9mm. This rod is super, super slow, so it's very important. I want to keep a lot of weight out of the front section of the rod, and that's why I believe this is the way I'm leaning. I'll take a look at my old rod. I'll take a look at all the data that exists for it, and I'll decide, was it where I wanted to be, or do I want to change it up a little? Moving on. This is where it gets a little bit stranger. And this is more for me, and a lot of these numbers, they landed where I figured they would land. There's things I'm happy with. There's things that I expected. Nothing really came at me as being out of line. It's good. So blank quality. So the butt was straight. No deviation from center line. Pretty much to me, when I write it that way, it means it's straight. Now what I'm measuring is how round was the blank. And let's just to be honest, there aren't many blanks that are that round. And this blank was really okay. It was 0.35.4 to 0.35.7. So I was out 3 thou, 0.294 to 0.296, 2 thou. That's decent. Second section, deviation from parallel in the mid body. So there's a curve in the mid section of the middle section. All right, let me re-say that. There's a curve in the second section in the middle of that section. Wow, this isn't getting better. Never mind, let's move on. It's the middle section of the rod. So this was decent. 0.294 to 0.299, 0.2165 to 0.2180. So again, it's moving 5 thou here. It's moving here. That's not bad. The tip, this is where I knew I would get into a problem, and I'm not shocked at all by this. So the tip, there was deviation. There was some out of parallel movement, and it was from 0 to 8 inches. And that movement was, what is that number? That would be 3/64. I think it's around 3/64. So the 16th of the inch is 0.62.5, half of that. Yeah. So it's out 3/64, which, okay, you can expect that. And when you get down to rods that are this light of a line weight, and especially when they're E-glass, you're going to have movement in tip. E-glass does not want to wrap over a mandrel easy, and the mandrel is going to be super thin, so it's going to happen. Sorry. It is what it is. I mean, there's some blanks, they will be straighter than that. So the deviation from center, how crooked the rod is, and let's be honest, the bulk majority of rods in this world are pretty crooked. You don't know it because of how they're set up. But these numbers are going to lead me to how I'm going to line this blank up. So I have 3 options. I can build it on the straightest plane. So that means I line everything up so it looks straight to the eye and pleasing to the end user, which I don't care that much about. I just want to know that the rod performs the way I want it to perform. I could build it on the spine, which is absolutely archaic and useless, or I could build it on frequency. So what I do here is I will try to build it on frequency first. I'll frequency out every section. I'll figure out how it performs. And then I'm going to look at how out of shape is it. I don't know yet. I haven't got to that point. But I'll find out when I get there. Now I still have the rest of this page. And I have all the pages behind it to fill in other things. So what else is going to be in here? Things like, what are my threads? What is my union colors? What is my tipping colors? How many turns of each thread am I using everywhere? Those things will all be filled in here. And the reason why is, I mean, there's 10,000 shades of pink. There's 10,000 shades of green. There's countless makers of this stuff. And if I blow this rod up, let's say I blow it up, I don't know, 2 months into its existence, I'm probably not going to scrap the entire build. I'm probably going to want to rebuild it. In which case, I want to be able to know what thread colors I need, what I'm pulling to make the rod work again, and, you know, all that fun stuff. And that's where I'm going to be at. So, it just allows me to go back. If I if I blow up a guide, I know what guide it is. If I end up scuffing the insert down the road, I know what type of finish was on this insert. If I do whatever, I mean, I'm going to know all these things. What these numbers here do for me is they tell me the first union and second union. This is going to tell me what size my ferrule rings are going to be, so I can go and pull gauge pins, which you'll see when I make the ferrule rings, what the benefit of using gauge pins are and why these numbers are really nice to be able to reference. Super fast, super easy. But this is one of the setups I'm thinking about. Kind of have thinking about the Kenya, which I think it looks okay. And then option B is this, which still looks okay. But I'm kind of leaning towards the Kenya, and if you have a personal preference, drop a comment below and tell me what it is. If you have an idea of what color thread I should be wrapping this rod in, drop a comment below. I have a good idea of what direction I'm going to wrap it in. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with this. And this notebook will be coming back periodically, and I'm going to be showing you more of the things that I use it for. Will come back when I'm able to fill in some of the questions that aren't answered for me yet, and all that fun stuff. So I guess we're going to wrap this video up here in a minute, and we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and wrap this up, and I kind of want to go over, I'm sure you're thinking a lot of this data is kind of useless. Like, I don't really need to know the first union diameter or the second union or anything like that. I'm not going to be making ferrule rings. I get it. I'm not that concerned with stacking cork. I'm buying a pre-made handle, or my insert I ordered from so-and-so, and it is what it is. I'm stuck with it. I get it. All these things. But regardless, when you get down towards, numbers like your guide profile, these are going to make a difference. And you're going to see I'm going to write things in later, like what my thread colors are, and all that stuff, what my finish is, what my humidity was, what I was doing and when I was doing it. These are things that are nice to know, and it's hyper important. And I'll make notes about what went wrong along the way, what went right, and I can look over these things and I could tell you everything about the rod, and I could look back at notebooks I have from 4, 5, and 6 years ago, and I can tell you
that, they're nice to look at the old notebooks because I see the personal growth. Either one's right. But, I can look back over it and I can tell you that the notebook definitely helps out. It definitely allows me to see what I've done right and what I've done wrong and what I need to change. And if I'm building another rod, if I run into an issue, I can probably remember about it happening on a rod and I could pull that up. So, regardless, whether you're building your first rod, your 500th rod, or whatever it may be, give it some thought to, keeping track of this data because it's imperative, and like how many tipping turns was on this guide and all that stuff. That's what I really like about having the notebook for, and that's why I like having it. So in the next episode, this guy will make an appearance for certain. We'll probably get into turning some of it, so you'll probably see me using some gouges. The insert's going to come back without a doubt. I doubt we'll get down to making ferrule rings or winding checks or anything like that. But I am excited. The micro bores that I broke over the last month, I got the replacements coming in tomorrow, which, yeah, I need to make a change there. But whatever. Yeah, well, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I genuinely do. And hopefully, I want to try to get 2 videos out a week going forward. So this video is probably coming out on Wednesday, unless I screwed up again, in which case maybe it's Thursday or Friday would be bad. So regardless, I'll ask again, and I forgot it in the first part. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Please like this video if you did enjoy what I'm going to do with it, and also turn on your notifications so you know when I'm posting things. If you know what I do in my personal life, my schedule is a train wreck, and it's more of a train wreck than ever. But that's neither here nor there. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing and when I am posting videos, I am going to go back to Instagram in a limited capacity, so you can look for me there under Snowman Custom Rodworks. And yeah, I'll see you again soon, or maybe I'll never see you again. Regardless, thanks for watching.